Welcome to the exciting and new podcast. This is a mini, and I'm Jason.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Brian.
And I'm Dave.
Welcome back, Dave.
Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Thank you. Good. Glad to be back.
I noticed today, or the other day when I was listening to the podcast, I noticed the shortness of the sound at the beginning. You'd said you cut out, cut it down
2.5 seconds.
From 4 to 2. I was listening for it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely shorter.
But that wasn't short.
No, it'll get changed in editing.
When he takes this 30-minute podcast and edits it for 5 hours.
Yes.
So what's everybody watching and doing? Anybody do anything fun this week?
Dave, how about you?
Well, this time I actually have 4.
Oh, gee.
4 things.
Nice.
Good. You have more than me.
Yeah, because I didn't have a lot for this week, so that's good.
My wife and I, we actually binged watched the entire Succession.
Awesome show,
Excellent
dude.
show.
That show, it's like a train wreck, but you can't look away. It's there. I mean,
I wonder
everybody's
how much
good.
fun that was. You were watching. How long did it take you to watch all 4 seasons?
Couple of weeks, 3
Yeah,
weeks.
so you were watching it fast.
Yeah,
That's
we watched
awesome.
it fast.
Yeah.
There are zero redeemable characters on that show, but it was so good.
Yeah, I guess there aren't really, because they don't have any young kids, so it's not like there's any young kids. I mean, I know that like Kendall has kids, but they don't.
Yeah.
They're not
a
factor into the
essential
story
part
at all.
of the show. Yeah,
Yeah,
You should get into that show. I told you that.
yeah.
I told you
It's
that.
worth
one
watching.
It's one that's really good, man.
but Brian didn't like it because he didn't like the characters.
No, I don't think he
right?
watched it, right?
I've seen parts of it.
Like he watched the season 4.
I watched one episode.
Did he watch like the season 4 opener, like the first episode of season 4? But like
I just
you're not going
don't.
to know anything that's going on in season 4.
But it's
like,
nothing about that show is anything that I would like. Like, I don't like shows like that.
Because there's no Koreans in it.
Exactly.
I'm not quite sure I understand what you like and not like. Still,
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What he kind of movies.
Like,
he
what
likes.
part don't you think you like about it?
I don't know. It just seems like boring. I mean, I didn't care about anybody.
Well, because you're watching the
again. You
so
started
far
season
in.
4 of a show that you don't know
but
any
I mean,
characters. How are you
I've-
supposed to like anybody? then?
I've watched a million shows, and I know what type of shows I like and what I don't.
But that's what we're asking you. What kind of shows do
That
you like?
one's not. I mostly like sci-fi, comedies.
So you just put Succession in space, you'd watch.
I probably would watch it.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I watched Succession on the Dude Ranch because I watched the first ever episode of now I forget what I watched.
Yellowstone.
Stone. Yes, I was going to say Yellow Jackets.
I was letting
know
him
that.
stay out.
that's
Right.
actually
Look, I was
that's
letting
pretty
him, I'm
similar.
letting him stay out there and get him himself sometimes because he does that to me. So let him sit out there and like.
So that show
Make
is
his brain get
just like Succession, where it's a old guy widow, just like Logan Roy, and he's got 4 kids, and he's like a
That's what they said. Succession is Yellowstone, and Yellowstone is Succession. Just
I mean,
in
very
different
similar,
settings.
very
Yeah.
similar. So Michelle and I watched the first episode the other day, and I really liked it.
There are some
So-
characters in that show that are likable.
Have you
and-
watched Yellowstone? You've watched all that? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but there,
Well, no one
some
yet.
of them are likable, and I mean,
Is that ending or did that end now? Is that
I don't
over?
know.
Well, didn't I hear like Kevin Costner wanted more money and he was holding out or so? And I don't know if that's the kind of show that can last without him or not. I mean, I don't know
they need him.
enough about it yet. There's the bitchy daughter. There's the Donald Trump Jr. looking
That one, like
son.
from the outside, it kind of reminds me of like a Dallas or like a Dynasty
well,
kind of
I mean,
show.
for sure, because it's out. You know, this
Yeah.
is more of a. It's actually exactly Cowboys and Indians because they own a piece of property in the middle of Montana, right? Montana, and they are right up against a reservation, and so he's a cattle rancher, and the Native Americans steal his cattle, and it's a fight over that. And then there's people trying to build developments on his land, trying to get access to that through public domain, and so he's fighting off all these poachers to his land. I don't know. It was okay.
It's
So
a good
far,
show. It's
it's
worth
no.
watching.
It's
That's
no,
another one worth watching.
It's no Succession yet. That's for sure. Succession, I was all in the first episode because that first episode isn't that where they helicopter to the baseball field for his birthday and.
Oh,
I can't
don't remember.
now.
I remember that.
Well, when you
but I
binge it
don't
like you
remember
did,
when.
everything's like
Yeah.
one episode, right?
Yeah, we had a friend. We had a friend that binge watched Game of Thrones. The first was it 6 seasons? He binge watched the first 5 seasons to get caught up so that he could talk to us about that last season as it happened. But because he watched it so fast, he knew nothing. It was like the blonde girl and the dwarf and the guy with one hand. I'm like, don't you know any of these people's names? He's like, nope, because it happened so fast. He didn't. he didn't have any time to
Yeah,
process.
you need to have that week where you just talk about it all week,
Yep.
and it's like those names are just thrown out there millions and millions of times. And it's just like finally, it's like, oh,
Yeah, he knew nothing by the end. Remember that when he would talk to us and he would know nothing. You don't even know who I'm talking about.
No.
Our friend Chris. Chris
Oh,
did that.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know Chris,
Yes. We're going to his house.
the guy who watched Game of Thrones.
Jason, you watch anything?
I watched that new Mark Hamill flick, The Machine, with Bert Kreischer. I'm not the biggest Bert Kreischer fan. I can handle
like
him
it.
in small doses and everything, but the movie is based off of that joke of his where he in college he went to Florida State. He went to Russia because he was taking Russian
Like as an
courses.
exchange student?
He was taking Russian courses, so he took Russian 1, 2, 3, and 4, and in the fourth year they took a trip to Russia, and he went to Russia and he got involved with the Russian mob.
Oh, really?
Apparently, and it's a true story in his stand up. It's like a 10-12 minute stand up clip. So if you want to listen to that, that's what the movie's based on. His trip to Russia.
Interesting that he's brave enough to actually call out the Russian mob.
Well, that's what
stand up and
that whole Van Wilder, that's what Van Wilder was based on for him. That was originally an article that was written for Rolling Stone magazine, and they wrote about him at Florida State.
really
Yeah, and then that's what became Van Wilder, that movie Van Wilder with
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. And then he's gotten to stand up, but
Really?
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Interesting route of how he got to where he is now, yeah, but he's just too much, man. He's
Yeah,
like
I don't
always,
find him
he's
funny.
always on, and
Brady loves him.
Yeah,
It's a little too
he doesn't
much
appeal
at
to me.
times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like so,
He reminds me of Dane Cook, who's the unfunniest stand-up comic,
who just got married.
except for Amy Schumer.
Who just got married to she's smoking hot.
Who's that?
Yeah, about a third of his age too, I think. Dane
Dane Cook?
Yeah, he just got married.
Well, I can see how we would pull in like young girls. Like he's
he was
a good-looking
big,
dude for
He was
sure.
big. He was big in colleges.
Yes.
That's how he got big in MySpace in colleges. And that's
College
what,
kids are stupid, and they get lousy comedians to come to
well,
their
but it was
school.
mostly college girls that were going to all
Yeah.
the shows and everything. So then he got in trouble for
College girls are the dumbest of all the college people. Brian, what about you? Korea this, Korea that?
I did. Christine started rewatching Korean shows.
Good God
So-
Almighty!
She's watched them all already.
Yeah, well, she's got a mix going on now. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to rewatch my favorite one. So I rewatched Business Proposal.
How many seasons is there?
It's just one.
Oh, just
They're
one.
all just one.
Yeah.
But that's only 12 episodes. So that's not a bad one.
When you say Christine's got a mix going, do you mean she's just like shuffling all her shows that she's already watched? And
She's
rewatching them?
she's watching 2 or 3 different shows right now.
But they're all rewatches right now. So it's
No,
different- oh.
no. I think she's done with her rewatches.
Oh, okay.
I think it's new shows.
Happy belated birthday to Christine.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got your text message that you got her a hand and stone massage
Did you?
appointment.
That's nice.
An hour before he texted her. Yes. Yeah, Michelle actually jokingly said the other day, because we were looking through our TV and we can sort by countries. And she's like, oh, Korea. She's like, should we start Korea shows? I'm like, absolutely not. First of all, I have to pay attention the whole time because I don't speak Korean. So I have to look at the screen, and I don't watch TV like that. I watch it with my phone in my hand. And
So does Christine.
yeah,
Christine's got a tablet in her lap, phone in her hand, and I'll have the TV going.
so she's watching on a tablet while there's another show on the TV going.
Well, she's watching on the tablet. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll be watching my show on
Does
the
she
TV.
have headphones on or?
No. Normally she's just reading, and then she'll be watching her show, and then she'll be doing stuff on her phone too the whole time. She's like a millennial or Gen Zer.
But I mean, how does she even? Oh man, like I don't even know how
That's very good
picks up anything.
multitasking.
Oh, yeah.
So she, and I know what she's doing on her phone. She's probably gambling. She's probably doing some kind of slots.
Yeah. She's
So that doesn't
definitely
take any
gambling.
brain
Oh, so you
work.
don't necessarily
That just
have to
has
be
to-
looking.
that just has to press
as long
a
as she
button
knows
every
where
once in a
the buttons are, like the change the amount of money that you're
I
betting.
I just watched 3 Korean shows, lost $700, and got a free cruise. A free cruise that cost $700 in gambling in one night.
Yes.
Does she do sports gambling too, or does she just do?
She
slots?
does. She'll do big games. She'll throw
Yeah.
$20 down on the Super Bowl or whatever, and then she does the squares.
Block pool. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that anybody can do. Not that Christine couldn't handle real sports betting since she follows sports, but they're the ones you could do. You're like, I can fill out a block.
Just pick a box.
I can pick a box.
It is easy.
I know. You could do that. And then ask everybody the entire time, what's this mean? Why do I have a 3 and a 2?
Then when you go to look at it to see who won, you're like, damn it, Alpin won again.
This guy who knows nothing. Knows nothing. Dave, what else did you watch, buddy?
We're watching Only Murders in the Buildings, the new season.
Very cool.
So good this new season. Did you watch the latest episode yet?
Next week's the last episode.
Yeah, finale.
I have not watched this week's episode.
Now, is it coming back for another season? Do we know that? Or
I don't know.
I can't imagine they wouldn't do another season because it doesn't seem like it's tough to film.
Yeah, I know. It's fun too.
Yeah. I mean,
So are you all caught up right now with season 3?
Yeah. We watch it the day it comes out.
Yeah, I didn't watch this week's episode. I don't remember why we didn't watch it.
It's season 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This season, the first half, it's a little slow,
Yeah.
but this last half has picked it up.
It's definitely gotten
it's got some momentum now.
It's just so funny how they had that rhythm to the show where whoever is the focus of the episode and you know this person's definitely the killer. By the end, they're just like,
they're not the
you're
killer.
just like, they're not the killer. Or they'll set it up the episode before was the cliffhanger, like, oh my God, what's that book that Meryl Streep has? And you're like, oh my God, she really is the killer.
It's her.
And then by the
I knew
end of
it.
the next episode, you're like, oh yeah, I guess she wasn't the killer. So it is funny how they have that ability.
It's well written.
It is very well written.
So now they have the focus is on another person.
Okay.
I wonder if they're gonna if it's actually gonna be that person or not.
Yeah, if it's going to carry over to the next season.
Usually it's like one of those things like at the last minute, they're like, oh, no, wait, it was you. And you're like, oh, and then the credits roll at the end. You're like, oh, okay. Although they have set up the next season every year so far. So I guess we'll know next week if there's another season. If someone dies.
Yeah, because wasn't it last year's, the last season 2 was when we got PR came in.
Right. And it said like a year later. It said like 1 year later.
That was for all you people out there that haven't watched it. I didn't want to spoil anything.
And the season before that, they were all up on the rooftop celebrating having solved the murder. I don't even remember which murder it was. And then Selena Gomez goes down and
that's when they
found her.
Bunny is dead or something like that. So
luckily for me, I still had season 2, which was already available. So I was like, sweet, I can go right into it. Now, when this ends, I have to wait 6 years.
Well, just like everything else. I mean, the writer's strike got solved, but now the
actors are still on strike. Yeah,
but I don't know. Does that mean
actors are still on strike?
Yeah.
I thought they were striking because the writers were on strike.
They have their own complaints, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know what. Like, if you're a writer now, can you just go back to writing, or do you have to wait till the actors?
Well, who's going to do their?
Well, you could at least
going to act their stuff.
You could at least have the scripts ready to go.
I mean, that's what you got to hope. Then this way, then they come back. Then all they have to do is film like these shows that are in existence already. They have the episodes already ready to go and just shooting.
Yeah, there's some shows that I'm like, can I wait 3 years? Like Foundation. Did you finish Foundation season 2?
No, I'm still.
Did you watch
that?
I'm milking it.
I wanted to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
I watched the first episode of Foundation.
The first of season 1.
Yeah, the very first one. I mean, I see the special, like what you guys see about it, the special effects and everything, but no spoilers. But how did they just gloss over what happened?
I'm trying to think of what happens. Oh,
the space bridge.
How do they gloss over it? They do not gloss over it at all.
No,
that episode, it's like,
doesn't it end with that? That's that episode. I mean,
they're still talking about it hundreds of years.
Yeah.
later.
Oh yeah.
Like there wasn't much said about that incident.
Oh no, there'll be a trial. There'll be repercussions and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's important.
It pissed off Empire.
Yes, it did. And 2 seasons in, man, that show's still so good. But the Empire stuff is the best.
Yeah.
Whenever Empire's on screen, you're like, all right, here's the best part. Like the other stuff's good, but the Empire stuff is great.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend you watch that.
Yeah, I'm going to give it more of a chance. But yeah, I was like, why aren't they talking about this more?
Oh, they will.
It seemed like a very large thing that happened.
I thought that ended the episode, but it's been a couple of years since I've seen that episode.
It was towards the end of the episode, right. And then the two two mathematicians were sent away.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
So yeah,
that's how it ended.
They did focus a lot on.
They focused on those
sending them, starting Foundation.
Well, yeah, they got to get them away so Foundation can start for sure. Great show.
Yes.
I watched Fool's Paradise on video on demand, and that is Charlie Day's written, directed, starring movie, and it's did anybody ever see Being There with Peter Sellers millions of years ago?
I saw it,
That
but I
title
don't
sounds
remember it.
familiar.
He is like a slow adult, and he just happens to get picked up by the vice president's wife or something like that in a limousine. And, he's a gardener. That's all he does. And that's all he knows about. And everything he says is about gardening. And they, of course, just assume he's got all this insight and he's brilliant. And, he ends up like changing the world.
He's
and stuff
quiet.
like that.
And he says simple things.
Fool's Paradise is in the same vein. It starts with Charlie Day in a psychiatric ward. He cannot speak. He cannot interact with anybody. All he does is mimic things back. If someone like shakes their hand and waves at him, he just looks at them and shakes their hand back. And so the nurse is like saying to the doctor, so are we going to treat him? And he's like, no, he doesn't have insurance. We're putting him out on the street. And so next thing you know, he's just out on the street, and I'm drawing a blank on who it is driving by, and he sees Charlie Day, and he's like, get in the car. And he just gets him in the car, drives into a movie set. And Charlie Day is also acting as this overbearing asshole actor that they now fire and put the other Charlie Day in his spot. And they're trying to act with him. And Adrian Brody is the bad guy in the movie that they're filming, and he thinks his process, your process is so great, man. You just got that cold stare, but it's, he doesn't even know what to do. And so the whole thing is about the rise and fall of this guy, and he has nothing to do with anything that happens to him in any way. The lead actress wants to marry him because he's so sexy, and he's just like, kind of like, oh, he never speaks during the entire movie. It's funny. It's too long for sure. There's a John Malkovich monologue in the middle of this thing where I'm like, what is happening here? And it goes on for like 5 minutes where I was like, why is this in the middle of this movie? It's very star laden for sure. Like every scene's got 3 people where you're just like, holy shit, Jason Bateman for no reason. And like those kinds of people, they're all over the movie, but it's very, I liked it. The ratings on like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes don't look too good.
Well,
but
comedies like that never get good.
But it was fun. I liked it.
Never gets a fair.
And if you like all the Always Sunny people,
big fan.
All of them are in there, except I don't think Mac's in there, but everybody else is in there.
Speaking of It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, I was leading you into that.
I went to see the It's Always Sunny podcast live in Philadelphia.
Wow.
That was pretty cool. The 3 main guys were there, and the girl, Megan, who's a producer, and she does the podcast with them, and Caitlin, Sweet D, came out also. She was a surprise. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
You were hoping that she was going to be there.
Yeah.
Either her or Frank had to be there. For sure, yeah.
I was Danny DeVito. I was like, I don't think he's going to be the surprise guest for some reason. Just didn't feel like it would be almost 80 and him coming out. He's busy. He's busy doing a.
That's funny that you should bring that up.
Commercial
Jersey
for
Mike's.
Jersey Mike's.
My mom calls the other day and she's like, "Do you have any plans in October?" I'm like, "No." Like I'm going over this. I'm like, this one week we have a wedding. She's like, "Okay, that's fine." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Danny DeVito's in a play on Broadway. I want to take Daniel to a play." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I know he likes him because of Always Sunny." I'm
What
like,
play? I wouldn't go.
I don't even know, but like, so my mom is taking Daniel to a play, and it's a Danny DeVito play. So I was just like, okay. And I
Find out what it is, man.
And I said to
I'd be
Danny,
down.
I'm like, "Did you talk to your grandmother about this?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "And you want to go?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, "Okay," because I just thought it was kind of weird. Anyway, go back to the Sunny play.
I'm done with this.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to bring it.
What do they do at the podcast?
Well, they just talked about certain things in the show and just talked about what they were doing. And Glenn tried cheesesteak for the first time. They had 4 different cheesesteaks from 4 different places. They played one of the Mac's favorite episode for the intermission, so we had that. And then there was just questions from some fans and stuff like that.
But this wasn't a specific episode.
This wasn't an episode
podcast.
filmed or recorded for the podcast. No, it wasn't one of those. But they did do one of those a while back, but right now they're not recording for the podcast because of the strike. So that's why. So maybe they'll be back when they come back. If they do an actual episode, I'd probably go check that out too. Because that was a lot of fun. Yeah. But it was at the Mann Music Center, free parking.
Excellent.
Which I loved, which was great. Free parking. You don't see that too often nowadays.
No. Definitely not for like an arena type atmosphere for sure. You have to pay to park everywhere nowadays.
And I got out. I had a really good parking spot. Got out of there. It was really muddy, but I was in like the perfect spot, so I was away from the mud. But I got out real quick. I mean, I was home before midnight, so it was a nice night.
What else you got, Dave?
The last thing I saw, I finished watching Silo.
Great.
And
That's another show that's,
a nice.
like, how much is the strike going to mess that up?
I like the twist.
Oh, yeah. That end is great.
Twist.
That whole show was great. I had a lot of fun watching that whole show.
I hope they make the next season quick.
Yeah, but I guess it all depends on the strike. I know, like with Foundation, they'd already started filming season 3. So they already had scripts written and they were in the process of filming. So hopefully they can get right back to it once the actors.
That's got to be an international show too. It's probably got filming all over.
Oh, like House of Dragons is still filming. Yeah. And is the Lord of the Rings show still filming? Not that I care. I'll never watch another episode of that show again, but
not unless they turn it around.
Yeah, that show sucks.
I watched the first couple episodes of that, and I haven't watched the rest of it.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone has.
I watched the whole. I watched the whole first season because Michelle and I watched it at this, together, and I was listening to like 3 different podcasts about it, and they were all podcasts I listened to those guys anyway, and they were doing a weekly special podcast just for Ring of Power. And I mean, all they did was just shit on the show every week. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep watching the show because these guys keep shitting on it. I'm going to keep watching it so I can go, as they're shitting on it. Okay, great. Although I won't do that with Daryl Dixon because those Bald Move guys are doing a Daryl Dixon podcast, and I am not watching that show.
I can't believe that's an actual show.
Oh yeah, that looks like so.
They're doing a podcast about the show Daryl Dixon.
Oh, they are professional podcasters. They make their money podcasting, so they have to basically have content going all the time. And they stopped doing Walking Dead like when everybody else stopped Walking Dead. Everybody stopped watching Walking Dead, and they stopped doing the podcast about it. And then during COVID, they were like, you know what? We're just going to go back and like do like fill in our catalog. It's weird that we have like 6 years of Walking Dead and there's all these other years after it. So they went back in, watched Walking Dead the last like 3 or 4 seasons, hated it, shat all over it. And then they're like, well, now that we're here, we're just going to keep going with Daryl Dixon. They didn't do like Fear the Walking Dead or the other one that came out with the kids, but they're doing Daryl Dixon. And I listened to the first episode just because I was intrigued what they were going to do, and they shat all over it. I was like, how can you spend it? Because they watched the episodes like 3 times and dissect it. And I'm like, ugh, why would you do that to yourselves?
It's rough.
Rough. Anything?
Nah.
You're good, Dave?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm Spreaker because that's where you can download, rate, subscribe, review, do all those fun things. We are the Exciting and New Podcast on all our socials. It's the Jazoo over there on Instagram, Jazoo74 on Twitter. This has been the Exciting and New Mini Podcast, and I'm Jason.
I'm Andy. If you want to get in touch with me, go to Jason's Instagram. I'm not giving it to you anymore.
And I'm Brian, Papa Bad Kitty.
And I'm Dave. No one gave you $1?
No one gave me shit, man. No one. I got like 3 likes this week. I'm like, I'm not even bothering doing this shit anymore. Less people like my Instagram than listen to this podcast. And that's saying something.